All right, everybody. We have successfully made our way into the screen. Hi.
Hi. Talk at them for a second. I'll be right back.
Perfect timing.
Sorry.
Perfect timing. All right. Well, for those of you who are joining us, hi, good morning, afternoon, good evening, good night, etc., etc., depending on time zone, fill in appropriate where appropriate. I am Pastor Don, and joining me is apparently the ghost of Courtney Fraley, who will no doubt be back with us in the world of the living here fairly soon. We are coming at you today for round two of our new, not sure if it's going to be a mini series or just what we do now. We've called it Uncertain Times. The point of what we're doing here is we're setting aside our kind of walk through the Bible that we've been doing for the last couple of years and saying, okay, Bible is important. Bible is very important. Sideways
Yeah.
Courtney, also important. Um, but what we're doing is we're kind of setting that aside for a minute and focusing on life. Like we're still going to be bringing the Bible into it, and God willing, now that we're getting the hang of what we're doing format wise, I may actually be able to screen share some stuff, and we'll have a little more of an accurate or a little more kind of fancy presentation today. But what we're doing is
Yeah.
we're instead of taking ourselves to the Bible, we're taking the Bible to ourselves. We are going out into the bullshit we're all experiencing right now and tackling that from the biblical slash Christian perspective rather than tackling the Bible and kind of trying to explicate some of the nuances therein. Still a good thing. We'll probably do that when, in the words of totally not a terrible, terrible, terrible character, when this crisis has abated. To quote Palpatine there. But we will return to it at that point. But for now, we got shit to do, y'all. We really, really got shit to work through.
Yeah, we had our own
So,
Palpatines to deal with.
yeah, I got a couple of them. First order of business is first. Are you still alive?
I think so. Uh,
So that's good. That's good. That means the last couple of weeks haven't killed you, which, is not a guarantee in the current status
yeah,
of the world or the US.
there's a non-zero chance of that. Yeah. I need to actually bother staging before we get things started because I've got the cool. I'm trying to make my boring background look like more fun for people, and it's just not quite working.
And I just got the old ratty church that we're in the process of tearing down. So I don't exactly have the
Yeah,
best
trying
staging
to.
either. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah,
any of you who
everything's
are
difficult.
watching,
Maximum effort.
yeah, well, any of you who are watching that are Japan side too, I'm actually going to be doing a kind of pre-destruction renovation over the next week to kind of turn this into kind of our classroom cafe area because I don't know if you guys can hear this or not. Mics being what they are, that's a big old maybe. We have some major construction going on right now. As of really today, we are beginning to erect the structure. Insert juvenile jokes here. But we are like this whole morning. We were supposed to have a kind of coffee event, but nobody could show up because nobody could get into the place. There were big old trucks full of like construction equipment and boards and planks and all the other stuff they need that were just getting set up. We finally have the foundation laid, and I know this isn't of interest to even everybody in our community because of how digital we are, but you know what? I'm going to talk about it for a sec because it's good for us to start on something growing before we get into everything that's doing the, well, opposite of that. So yeah, like our new church building is starting to come together. The foundation is laid. It actually is like we can see that now the footprint of where the church is going to be. And it's nice. We're even discussing if things line up well of maybe doing a little bit of a candlelight vigil on Christmas Eve in the skeleton of the new church. Might be fun. So, now that we've started with our nice little piece of happiness, what is going on in your country, Courtney? Well, our country, even though I don't live there anymore.
It might involve two presidents. It might involve a horse.
I hadn't
Um,
heard about a horse. Are you joking or is that real?
no, I'm not joking. Oh, I forget that you're not as immersed in the American news cycle.
Yeah, I don't catch
So,
everything. I catch some stuff, but I don't catch everything.
so the House committee been like drip feeding the public Epstein files,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and um, yeah, uh, there's there's a specific email that mentions where I think Epstein himself mentions photos of Trump blowing Bubba
Now, I'm actually
is the
going to
phrase.
use this. I'm going to use this as an occasion to test here because if I did this
The
right,
screen share. Do you
yeah,
have something pulled up for this?
I actually have a. I
Do you have
went
the
through
email?
house. I went through house oversight and actually got a list of the email here. So let's
It's not
see if
hard to
I.
get, folks, if you want to dig.
Oh, I lost your audio, so hold on a sec because I don't have this set up properly. So see, I screwed something up. So, but it is on screen, so I'm just going to keep vamping until I get us to where we need to be. Now you're visible, and where is the audio? That's just gone now. All right, well, let's add another audio source. So, sorry to make you guys wait. Should be here.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Okay, excellent,
Okay, cool. Good
fantastic.
stuff.
Yeah,
All
apparently I
right,
hadn't
so have you pulled
configured
up
that.
the appropriate,
I have pulled
ridiculous
up the appropriate.
documentation of this?
Yep, and on screen we are seeing the from Mark L. Epstein, like dated 3/21/2018. Subject, hey, importance high. I love just looking at this, I love the combination of those two things. Importance high. Subject, hey. No notes.
Please continue with the dramatic reading
Yeah.
before I
Importance
can
high.
tell you what the news cycle and the public have managed to spit out about this.
Yeah. The text of the email is just one sentence. Ask him if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing Bubba. It's from Mark Epstein to Jeffrey Epstein. Follow up all good Bannon with me. And then it goes on from there into other stuff. With a note at the bottom. A while back, you mentioned you were pre-diabetic. Anything changed with that? What's your boy Donald up to now? Please note the information contained in this communication is confidential, may be attorney-client privilege, may constitute inside information, is intended only for the use of the addressee. Like, okay, now we're putting the we're about two emails
Yeah,
down the chain, and now we're putting the CYA on the
and
bottom.
no, I think it has to do with the way that the documentation is going. Honestly, like just having worked for a bunch of dumb
Mm,
rich fuckers who can't spell. Like,
yeah.
no offense to poor people who can't spell. Rich people have
Hmm.
no fucking excuse.
Yeah.
But like use a fucking spell check. But
Right.
this reads like emails that I've seen from every like rich person who every just grating fucking rich person that you've ever
Mm.
met. This is what their email inbox looks
Yeah.
like.
Now
So, I
I
mean,
gotta say this.
not the specific topic, but I mean the way
Yeah.
they write and the ridiculous disclaimers and the signatures.
Hmm. Yeah. No, you're right about that. You know, I'm reflecting on this today. I'm going to go back to what I said when were discussing this actually on the server. Anyone who's following this and is not on our server should be on our server and you know talking about this. But when this came up on the server, there's a distinction I really do want to make here that I think is important because a couple of church people getting outrageous about an email about a blowjob, it's going to create certain parallels here. One of which I want to address right off the bat from a personal perspective. And in my role and capacity as minister of Word and Sacrament in the Reformed Church in America, nobody cares that one man gave another dude a blowjob. Guy wants to help a dude out, that's totally okay. That facet of it, nobody cares. At least not from this Christian perspective.
Betrayal of marital vows is an issue
That piece is an
because
issue. It's one of the biggest issues I tend to have with a lot of things. It's actually one that's very near and dear to my heart. I've dealt with a lot of people who've gone through that before. It's brutal. But then again, I always wonder if it works the same for people in these rich people relationships. They always seem to be a little bit different, but I don't know that.
we can't know if someone's in an open relationship or
That's
what
true.
have you.
That is
Um,
true. I have also noticed that
there's
for Republicans in married relationships, they tend to treat gay sex as not being
it
relational in
doesn't
that
count.
way. Yeah, that tends to be. It was another dude, so it doesn't count. It tends to be a common refrain amongst those circles. So, like, the dynamics of their relationships are not a known factor here, is what I'm getting at. Um,
Well, and ask the trans femme sex worker community in any city that has hosted a bunch of Republicans in the last couple of years
Yeah, yeah,
about people on the down low. Anyway,
yeah.
um,
But anyway,
but
my,
it
my
gets
point in that,
sorry,
no, my sorry, my
continue.
my point in that is to say that the sexual aspect of this is irrelevant largely. The violation of marriage vows certainly is an aspect of this. But what I said in the server, and I stand by this, is that somewhere, some nicely appointed kind of mid Manhattan bathroom somewhere, um, I'm certain when this email was released, Monica Lewinsky was vomit laughing at the simultaneously just because of how just insane this is.
She deserves it.
Yeah. She deserves a good
Vomit
old
laughing.
fashioned la vomit.
Yeah, I mean, and the memeing and stuff has been fantastic. But here's the thing: that's
Hmm.
one possible explanation for this.
Yeah.
Another one.
Hmm.
Apparently, I need to double check. This is all conjecture. What this? Okay, hang on a second. There's probably
Yeah.
somebody tuning into this and is like, "Isn't this a church podcast?" Okay, here's the thing. Um, if you've been with us for a while, or if you're familiar with both the teachings of Jesus Christ and the leader of the United States of America, um, this dude is a problem. Like, it's not even so. No, this is a little bit of Schadenfreude. I have to be perfectly honest with myself. I can't, talk around that. But I want to but I say that to preface how stupidly gossipy this is. But allegedly, Ghislaine Maxwell or one of her close associates had a horse named Bubba.
Well, that's so much better.
I, I'm just watching you just freeze and try to process that until you decide it's made you quite happy.
I you
Yeah.
wow. Wow.
But at the end of the day, I think people are latching in on this because it's something we can laugh at because
Hmm.
the rest of it is so fucking bad. Just the bits that the bits that we know, um
Well, I
the
wanna
other stuff that's mentioned is a lot more concerning.
yeah, we'll
Because
get
I
to
mean, bestiality is not okay, but like,
no.
if it's not that, if it's just, oh, Trump blowing somebody named Bubba, whether it's
Yeah.
Clinton or not, and that would be the funniest thing on the planet if it was Clinton.
Now
And I don't
I'm
care.
gonna
Throw him in the back of the same squad car. Good,
yeah,
lock him up too.
right.
I don't care. He's a sex
Look,
pest.
like, yeah, I've never been a fan of Clinton. His hard push of the Democrats to the right into neoliberalism notwithstanding, you're right. The man's always been a bit of a sex pest and has almost certainly been a criminal on multiple levels. What I want to draw attention here to, I am going to actually pivot back to the sexuality of it a little bit. That's occurring to me as we're talking about it. Um, because what I think is probably at play here, and this is my own opinion. I'll admit this is not just me spouting the facts here. This is me taking my opinion on what I've drawn from this. I do tend to think that this was Trump and Clinton. I think that is the most likely read on it, because not because the two are secretly like not because Trump's hot for senpai. That's not what's happening here.
No,
Um,
no. This is some sort of a power thing.
right,
Some
right.
sort of a, yeah.
And I'm going to probably lose you again because I'm going to click over to the
Or a
scripture
drug
reading here.
thing.
I'm gonna click
Or
over to the
both.
scripture here. I'm gonna bring something up for a second, and so if I lose your
Oh my
audio for
god,
a
you have
second, I'll bring it
scripture
right
for
back.
this?
Weirdly enough, I do. Do I have the Discord audio on here? I do have the Discord audio. Are you saying something? You are, but I'm not getting it. One moment. I gotta keep doing this every time because I forgot to adjust this, so I apologize, everybody. Now you should be audible.
Okay, stop doing whatever you're doing that makes us lose audio.
No, I haven't reprogrammed some of the secondary screens to accommodate for the fact that we changed how the audio system works a few weeks back. So every once in a while, I
Okay, so
stumble
is
across
it
something like I
happening on
missed it.
its own?
No, it's just every time I switch to a new screen, like because when I share something, for those of you who want a nice little peek behind the scenes, the way it works in broadcasting software is every time what's on the screen changes, you're switching to a new scene, and every scene has to have every piece that you're using, audio, video, and everything kind of pre-programmed into it. And so some of these
Okay.
scenes are set up using the audio configuration that we originally had, and then something got screwy and we lost the ability to do it with screen shares. I updated most of them, but since we haven't used these parts of the live broadcast in a while, I haven't added the updated audio configuration to these new. So these two scenes we switched to, I had to re-add the audio input that I've added to fix the problem we had, 2 months ago. Now it's added, it's there, so we're not gonna have to do it again. But it's like
Ah,
every time I'm switching to one of these new screen shares, I'm like, shit, I haven't used this one since we had to
but you've
change the
lost me.
audio. Now I
It's
have to add it.
we don't need the weeds. But I'm just saying you've lost me
Yeah,
twice thus far, and like
yeah,
the
that's
same
probably
problem with
it.
explaining all of it.
Yeah,
Like we're
it
live.
wasn't it
Ah,
wasn't losing you. I just didn't have it plugged in yet because we were running late in setup. Anyway, what you're
all right.
seeing on the screen right now is one of about 2 dozen different verses I could have pulled up. And this is 1
Just the fact that you
Corinthians
have verses of the Bible pulled
6.
for the Trump Clinton blowjob.
Yeah, well, we're on
The
1
fact that I
Corinthians
just said
6.
Trump
There's
Clinton
there's
blowjob.
any number of biblical verses I could have pulled that address this. And I'm going to roll into here into verse 13. Food is meant for the stomach, and stomach for food, and God will destroy both one and the other. The body is meant not for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. That I just pulled this one literally at random because it was one of the first ones on my list of this is talking about quote unquote sexual immorality. And we have had this conversation roughly 945,000 times on this and
Yeah,
related podcasts and videos.
because people got to pretend that means gay for
It
some
doesn't.
reason.
What
It
it's
doesn't.
referring to, what it's referring to is a practice that was extremely common in ancient Hebrew times, Middle ancient Hebrew times, and in Greek times as well, which is right around the Jesus times and thereafter, whereby sexuality was not seen as a romantic thing. The concept of romance, the way we come about it, was particularly in Greek society seen as more like a kind of like an affectation or almost like a disease. Like, oh, you love your wife? What the fuck is wrong with you? Type stuff like that. It was seen as a weakness. And so sexuality was often used in these cultures as a form of power dominance. So if you wanted to show someone their place, you would take them up back, grab them by the neck, put them, face down, ass up, and do the thing. Like rape was a tool of instituting social power, and we see that in a lot of places in the Bible. One of the greatest and most definitive examples of this, of course, being the case of those two little cities. What were they called out in the plains? Sodom and Gomorrah. That's the ones.
I was
Where
gonna, you beat me. You went so fast you didn't let me make a stupid joke. I was going to say Minneapolis, St. Paul.
having not been there, I'm not going to make the crack necessarily,
No,
but
I'm joking. I've never heard anything but like lovely things about
yeah,
Minnesota and
same
its
here,
people.
really.
So
Um,
it's like a
yeah,
pretty
I
good
know
state from what
nothing
I
about those
understand.
two cities. But yeah, so when we're dealing with sexuality biblically and the abuses thereof, whatever's usually translated as sexual immorality is referring to basically hate fucking people that you want to put in their place. Now, there's no condemnation of homosexuality as a loving relationship in the Bible. There's no condemnation of any loving consensual sexuality in the Bible. But there is condemnation of sexuality divorced from consent and emotional contact and used as a tool of power. And
There's
what we are,
condemnation of consensual sex under the circumstances in which you're lying about part of it. Like that
that's
is something God condemns with freaking death like, in the
in
Bible.
fairness, in fairness to our modern definitions, lying to someone about the conditions under which you are having sex and having sex with them is not consensual sex. It's rape by fraud. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. I won't say that rape was so common
For
that it didn't
more
need a
on
word.
that,
Hold on.
for more on that, let's be sure to.
Right. I do want to respond to a
Yeah.
comment from Erica there in the chat here that's asking that rape was so common that it didn't need a word. No, it definitely had a word back then. But it had a much narrower use. So we see the term rape, or what's translated as rape, pop up in Hebrew and Greek, and it's often used as a kind of property theft. So like it's rape of someone who was effectively your own property or whom you had power rights over was not rarely ever described as rape because you had the authority to do it. Now, if you went and raped someone's sister or wife or mother, that was a violation of property rights. Because remember, other people were property for most of all of the what's it called, human history. So yeah, so the concept of rape in biblical times, pretty much all of biblical times, really, had to do with violations of property rights as much as it had individual consent. So, yes, rape was a word and does appear in the Bible, the rape of Tamar, for example. But in those cases, it's only ever used when it violates both consent and property rights, if that makes
Hmm.
any sense. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
remember
sorry.
property rights, if I'm not mistaken, being an important part of the Tamar story too, where it's
Exactly.
like, no, that's just well,
Yeah.
I've been realizing recently that from a number of sources, but I have to shout out once again to Behind the Bastards. Our concept of a state, like a nation state,
Hmm.
is really new. Like the way states work now with like clear defined borders and like all of each state must have a singular head of state or, a singular governing body and like that's a relatively recent thing.
Yeah.
Um by the
Matter of
span of
fact,
human existence.
I literally
Of late.
just taught that exact lesson in one of my university classes this past week about
Oh,
how,
nice.
yeah, how for most of human history, the concept of like, I talked about it in terms of, and I'm going to reference a cracked.com article that predates at least some of our listeners' entire existence here. I want to say it was
So back
Daniel
when it was
O'Brien.
good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there we go.
Obviously, most of us haven't followed it in recent years, but back in the day, I think it was Daniel O'Brien wrote it, and I forgive me,
See
cracked
also Behind the
writers.
Bastards.
Yeah, forgive me, cracked writers and artists behind the bastards and all you, if I am getting the citation on this one wrong. Pretty sure it was Daniel O'Brien. Not sure. So if I'm wrong, I apologize. Listen to our podcast more. We'll be happy for it anyway. Um, but he wrote this article called it was describing what he called the monkey sphere. Have you read that one?
I don't think
Um,
so.
And I thought it was a wonderfully unique take on really the basic psychological theory that we have a limited number of people whose distinct identities we can hold in our heads. Like we can functionally understand. I understand you are a person, a fully realized independent person, and other people I know, my wife, my children, they're all functionally independent people. Sometimes they're assholes, but they're fundamentally independent, functional people. But the more people we start getting into our heads, we eventually reach kind of a critical mass, after which point they become abstractions.
Yeah.
Um, and this is like there was some psychological study he was referencing that was based on monkeys, where they calculated how many distinct monkeys another monkey could process and memorize. And it was something like 24 or something like that. I forget the exact number, but it wasn't a whole hell of a lot. And then they ran the study again on humans, and humans weren't all that different either. So when we talk about most of human history, the fundamental unit of humanity was the family. Like, and families were nomadic. We'd go from place to place. Eventually, we settled down, discovered agriculture, and all of our kind of local villages or cities or kind of local areas were really just a couple of family units in proximity. They were never like an overarching identity above the people to whom I am
You're
biologically
talking
related.
really early prehistory, right?
Right. And this
Yeah.
continued this way, honestly, for a large chunk of human history, even
Oh
into
yeah, yeah, yeah.
recorded
No,
history.
we were very much like just a smart,
Yeah.
unique animal
Like even when we're
for a long
clearing,
time. And really
clearing
vicious.
into,
We've always been vicious, unfortunately.
yeah, but even as we're clearing into like modern written history, and we're starting to get like the writings from Sargon of Akkad and Ur, and we're starting to get Babylon and all of the stuff that's in the Hebrew Bible and stuff like that.
Shit, I
We're
got to
seeing,
study in college. Hell yeah.
yeah, we're seeing at this point references to quote unquote nations. But all that really is just a lot of disparate villages with kind of boundaries preset by a king or something a ways off to have conflict with other kings. The average person didn't have a national identity, so to speak, which is why even through most of the Bible, everything's described. Yeah, we're of Israel, we're Jewish, we're from these people, but it's always done in family terms. Like I'm of this tribe, which is a family. And that's
Well, and
if
you'll
you look
notice that's part of like Jewish identity now is like
even still, yeah,
whether you're Jewish is a religion and it's also like an ethnic group,
yeah.
but they
So
don't
it's
all not there. It's not a full. The Venn diagram isn't a complete circle.
right. And so to be fair, and that's a bunch of white Christians talking about Jewish identity is never going to be the easiest conversation in the world.
I'm
Nevertheless,
just
it
saying it as an example most people are familiar with, or
right,
like
right.
Romani people,
Yeah,
the same
the
kind of
Romani
thing.
function very
Where you're
similarly.
talking about like an ethnic group, but well, and that's specifically a nomadic group, which again is something that we had and weirdly demonized
Mhm.
for some reason
Yeah. You know
in
what?
like the Western world recently. Like all I'm what I the overpoint that I want to get at with this is society can run a lot differently than it does, and it has for most of human history. And I'm not saying we need to go back to like serfdom or some shit. Like don't reductio ad absurdum
No, no, no.
ad absurdum me on this bullshit. But like we can come up with new things, like we can and should be trying to improve the system, like as desperately flawed as every one of the American founding fathers. They had some good ideas too, because no
Right,
single person is all black or all white as far as like
right.
as far
And
as
now this
morality is
is
concerned. And they had some now let me finish my thought real quick. They had
sorry,
some
thought you were
damn good
finishing.
ideas.
Yeah.
Sorry. They had some you got me off my train now and I'm trying to remember where I was at. Um
Founding fathers had damn good ideas. Not everybody's all black, all white, etc., etc.
yes, but I had a specific thing that I was getting at with that. It was
I'm sorry.
can you no, you come. You know, it's the ADD. Tell me specifically what we were speaking about beforehand, please.
We're rolling forward from city states and national identities. Um
Oh,
we're talking
yes.
about
Okay, here we
clans
are.
and
A more
families.
perfect union. A more
Yeah.
perfect union. The concept of that, like
Hmm.
that's something and it brings it back to American politics as well. That's something that this country is supposed to be founded on. Is the
Right.
idea not that we've got it like this, let's keep it exactly like it is forever, but no, that we have to keep working on it. This is our forever project. We have to keep working on this. And if you're working on something, you're going to be changing things. We need to get used to the idea that the system doesn't have to be exactly what it is and that that's not some betrayal of our forebears. Okay.
Right.
End of rant.
And then we roll it back. That's the Jesus message there in a nutshell. That's what love your neighbor as yourself is all about. Is it's basically
Mhm.
about it's de-abstracting the monkey sphere, to bring my references back into communion with each other. We're taking all of the idea behind the whole Christian movement is to take these abstractions of humanity, because once somebody's an abstraction, it's easy to stop thinking of them as a human, and then therefore to do and condone horrible things to them or being done to them. Which is really the root of most human evil, is that we can't process the people all the way over there as being fundamentally the same as the people who are us. So the more perfect union, the rise of democracy, which I've also joked with several people lately, started out with the Presbyterians, not the Americans. I mean, technically started with the Greeks, but like anyway, um, the rise of this is all rooted in
Americans.
yeah. Well, look, the history lesson here is that the Constitution was basically a ripoff of two primary things: the founding documents of the Iroquois Confederacy and the Rules of Order of the Presbyterian Church. It was literally just those two things stapled together. Um,
All art is remixing.
yeah, you're not wrong about that. Anyway, um, what I'm saying is that the end goal for us is to tear down these power structures, because that's really the poison we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
The fundamental unit of humanity is family, and the only way we become a unified humanity is when all humanity are family. When we're able to process that, that's what love your neighbor as yourself is all about. That's what the teachings of Jesus are all about: is overcoming the idea that beyond a certain point we can abstract and therefore do what we want with impunity. And the opposite is what we need to do, to tear down the power structures that are enabling that, and then to begin processing everybody as family, which brings us back to Trump and Bubba. Um,
See, and my brain from that immediately went to Miss speaking about like refusing to allow people to abstract, like, hey, look, here's this little girl, here's her exact story, isn't she sweet? you know uh, Watch her bake a traditional dish from her home in Palestine, and then see the
mhm.
picture of when she found out she didn't have any legs,
Yeah,
because you can't keep abstracting groups of people. They're
right.
all human, we're all God's children.
Mhm.
I'm gonna get mad, I'm sorry, so go ahead. I'm
Yeah,
angry about people misusing God
that's my
or the name of
secret,
God.
Courtney. I'm always mad in this world. No, but yeah, that does bring us back to the whole Trump and Bubba thing right there, because that is,
We need something to laugh at.
we need something to laugh at, but also like the use of sexuality as a power play that way, the interconnectedness of the elites in disregarding um what these things are meant for, the connection that is meant to underpin us. Like, look, I'm not going to get too graphic with you, but a blowjob's meant to be a fun and emotionally connecting event. It's not meant to be an expression of power play here. And really, all sexuality is meant to be a joyous celebration of the human condition. It's not meant to be abusive. And so,
A
you
joyous
know,
celebration of the human condition is my favorite description of sex I've ever heard. That's fantastic.
I know a thing or two. I have three children. I've been down that road once or twice. Um, but my point is that this is not in and of itself. The fact that a blowjob occurred is not reason for outrage or disgust or anger. What's reason for outrage from the Christian perspective, at least as far as I'm concerned, is the perversion of something beautiful, the interconnectedness between humanity, and turning that into a tool for obtaining and pursuing power, using that as a means of. Because I'll look at it from Bubba's perspective as well, assuming that ain't the horse. That would then be a an action of basically gatekeeping power with sexuality. Like, all right, you want to get some of that neoliberal power here, you're gonna have to suck on old Bubba down there. Like, that's still not good. And this ties in again to what we were saying before, that, if this is Bill Clinton, lock his ass up right alongside Trump.
I mean, Bill Clinton definitely is all over those fucking files.
Oh
Like, I
yeah.
zero question.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that. I love that that's been brought up. Like, yeah, well, he's probably. I again, like I said, throw him in the back of the same squad car
Hmm.
for all I care. Lock him
Yeah.
up. I do not care. I do not. I have. I loved Obama. I have legitimate beefs with him because I
Hmm.
don't worship politicians.
Right.
You can't it's idolatry at this point.
Hmm.
Like, and some of the things that you hear, and yeah, you can cherry pick sound bites, but if you can gather a big enough like chunk of them at a certain point, it's like
Yeah.
some of the things that you hear about like Trump being the messenger of God, and it feels like vomit in my throat. Um, just it really is idolatry at a certain point, and like it's this is yet another example of like the rapture is not a thing, okay? The rapture is made up if you haven't been following along, but like really recently made up. If you think if you think the concept of like nation states is new, check out how new that idea is.
Well, here,
Um,
I was just listening to what you were saying there, and I think it's time for me to bring up another Bible verse. Um,
right on.
and I'm gonna switch this over here. Should be visible on your screen. All right. So this one comes from the book of Exodus, chapter 20. Those of you who are familiar with your
Mm,
Bibles will probably already know where I'm going with this. And I'm just going to read it straight out of the bat, verses 1 through, let's say,
This is
Yeah,
that's
let's
not the
say
way to
six.
read this book, but it's like he's speed running is the concept of Revelation from the Left Behind series. It's absurd.
All right, here we go. From the book of Exodus, chapter 20, verses 1 through, let's say, 6. Then God spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol, whether in the form of anything that is in heaven above, or that is on the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God. I'll stop there actually, because the rest of it gets into like punishment and shit like that. We don't need to really talk about for the moment. But I really want to
But
drive
it's
that one
important to
home.
apocalyptic literature.
It's important to apocalyptic literature, but there's also a reason why that's not just in apocalypses like Daniel and Revelation, but also in Exodus, why that's right at the top of the Big Ten. Because idolatry, and I really love the argument with respect to idolatry, because I've had this with a few conservatives these days, that, well, it's not like we're making golden statues of Trump, which, one, yeah, a lot of you kind of are. Like, I'm sorry to say, like, I've
Yeah.
seen the pictures. There's a golden Trump covered in dollar bills at Mar-a-Lago at one point. Like, no, that's definitely
The
happening.
White House looks like Versailles,
Yeah. But
and children are starving.
let's go one
I
past
want to
this.
punch someone so hard.
Yeah. I also want to go one past this and highlight the fact that the fashioning of an idol is not just a crafting process, it's a social process. Like, you can craft yourself this great gold idol, set it in the town square, and say, "This is your God now," and everyone's going to laugh at you. Like, you have to build it up, you have to make it into something that people choose to worship. And that's the crafting of an idol. Like, the physical
Yeah,
idol is the representation
the
of the
PR.
actual idol that's been raised up. Now, idolatry is really just a cult of personality attached to any one thing. It could be attached to that person, it could be attached to a representation of that person, but it becomes idolatry. Well, it becomes idolatry when you're worshiping a person other than God, regardless. But the idolatry in particular we're thinking about is very much Terry Pratchett in nature, when the idea of the person becomes separate from the person themselves. Like, you
Oh yeah.
literally raised up a fictional god in Trump Republicans. Like, they have created this false deity who shares Trump's name to worship, and to him are being all glory, laud, and honor of the Republicans and their evangelical churches, with the end result being, like, Trump himself is a, however the hell old he is, multiple, like, organ failing, heart patient, drug using, Bubba blowing psychopath who's got everything wrong with him on multiple levels. He's literally physically failing as a human being, doesn't have the mental cognitive processes to do, even conceive of any of the
There
things that are
needs
being
to be a
attributed to him.
maximum age of the presidency.
Right.
There's a
But
minimum.
that's kind of my point, is like, he's not that guy. Like, the guy that Republicans describe when they're talking about their hero Trump is not the same person who's actually sitting in the White House. That is the
Mhm.
definition of an idol. The false image of a person that's different from the person himself. They're worshiping the idea of Trump. That is prima facie idolatry.
Just and imagine worshiping that idea of Trump,
I mean, notwithstanding that the idol is a monster to begin with, but
and
um
then calling yourself Christian.
yeah, that one pisses me off, I'll be honest.
It makes me want to break things, man. Like, I
Perhaps
need to
kick
get
over
back to
some
the gym, but I
tables.
can't afford to restart my membership.
Yeah. Kick over some tables. Maybe,
Fucking hell.
well, if you can't start your gym membership yet, might I suggest sitting on the curb outside and slowly braiding a whip of cords? I hear that's in good theological stead. See, I'm just full of good ideas, aren't I?
I just bring that energy to sit to like hand sewing Barbie clothes. I'm trying to make my kids Christmas presents this year.
Yeah, I gotta figure Christmas out too. That'll be a fun thing. No. So this is where we're at. Like, the intersection of idolatry and abusive power dynamics has given us the situation that we have here. And the theory behind this whole new series we're doing is how do we survive it? But like this is why we're spending all this first chunk of the program talking about it is because we can't survive it until we know what it is, what we're dealing with. And so
Mm.
the part of it we're looking at today, at least, is the idolatry and the abuse of power dynamics at play uh, in this. Now, what do we do becomes a much different question, and a much more difficult one, because as I will remind us all every time we come to this question, the answer for us, what do we do to overturn these systems, is all too often going to be not that much. Like these systems are running independently, and there's really no one of us who can tackle them independently. That American exceptionalism being what it is, we're not going to go over and topple these systems on our own, or honestly, even collectively. Like at this point, the halls of power are too powerful for us to just tear them down in the ways of Eld. But what we can do, and I'll remind this every day, is push back on our own level. We may not be able to stop Trump from blowing Bubba, but what we can do is we can stop the CEO of our local business from trying to make his female employees do that. What we can do is we can call out sexual predators and abusers, and yes, cult religious figures when they abuse their authority to do that as well. Like taking these things that are meant for beauty and using them as tools of power is not unique to Trump or Clinton or the however many people on Epstein's email list. Um, it happens all around us. And as that becomes more validated from the top, you'll see your garden variety monsters feeling more empowered on the bottom. And so our work today is not to take down Trump. We can't do that. We simply can't. Like we don't have the power to do that. But we can take down Big Bob and Bob's House of Furniture, who's got that reputation all around town. We can take down the local cult leader who sneaks around and seduces married women and manipulates them and takes them out into the woods for whatever. We can deal with your average gas station worker who hoards his managerial position to abuse the teenagers under his power. There's so many different opportunities locally that we can focus on where this same dynamic is at play. And we start there. We push back against, God, I'm going to sound so evangelical when I say this, and I apologize to all of my evangelical listeners. But in the name of Jesus, we got to push back against that decadent culture that's telling us that we can do these things. Uh, kind of true now. God damn it, it's true.
Well, here's the thing. Decadence isn't like enjoying secular movies. You know, decadence is nesting doll yachts. Decadence is 5 homes while the people who build your wealth can't afford a 1-bedroom apartment on their own.
Yeah.
Like,
Decadence is not like cultural decadence is not using your EBT cards to buy a steak because you've had a shitty week and you need something good in your life. Decadence is not, a guy and his boyfriend, cowering together in their, 1-bedroom apartment they can't afford and having a night of sex because they can't afford to pay the bills or do anything fun. Like those aren't decadence; those are survival tools. And it's like, it's worth noting that the decadences that evangelicals have decried for generations have never been indulgences or anything that would actually be qualified as decadence. They've been things that are coping tools for the poor and the disadvantaged and the oppressed. Like what's actually decadent are the things that you pointed out: the rich getting richer, 9 houses because, well, I can afford to do it. Again, what's his name, Dave Ramsey, and his half a dozen houses, saying, "Well, God wants me to be a management over." I don't remember the exact quote, but I saw it like a week ago where someone called him out for being a Christian and having like 7 or 8 mansions, and he said, "Well, it's not really mine; it's just God's property, and I'm managing it." I'm like, bullshit, absolute bullshit. That is cultural decadence in a nutshell, and that does infuriate me. It really does. Um, So that is the sort of thing that we're pushing back against. That's the sort of thing. These are the battles we can win, for lack of a better term. That's where I want us to keep our focus as Christians and operators in this space is we need to focus on the battles we can win, and we can't. We don't have enough ground right now, like to win national level battles. But we can win community level battles. We can make our own local areas safer. We can create eddies in the current, oases in the desert where people can come and be safe. That's what unfinished community is meant to be. It's meant to be one of those places where, like, look, if you can't get that safety anywhere else, come here. We will tell you about how God loves you and how these other people are assholes, and we will give you what we can to strengthen you for the journey. We need to be building places like that everywhere we go, trying to carve out nooks and crannies for the oppressed, and often enough, that's usually us, to survive in. Enough of those, we start connecting them together, and then we start building the momentum we need to take on the bigger stuff. But I don't want us to fall into the trap of thinking that if we're not focusing on Trump, then we're not focusing on the right fight. Because to paraphrase a wonderful theological writer who was himself not Christian, the role of the president is not to wield power, but to distract attention away from it. Yes, I'm quoting Douglas Adams. He's incredibly wise. Um, but that's it
I
in
thought so. I'm
exact.
sitting here and I'm like, is he explaining Zaphod Beeblebrox right now? Which,
Look,
frankly, is kind of what I'd hoped for. I'm like when he first got elected, I was like, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe we'll get a Zaphod Beeblebrox presidency, where there's God,
Trump is what Zaphod would be if Zaphod was actually malicious.
yeah.
Like Zaphod Beeblebrox was a
Instead of just
character with
wanting good
redeeming
things and to not
qualities.
have responsibilities.
Yeah, he just didn't want. He just wanted to not. That's what Zaphod Beeblebrox was. He was a character who just wanted to not, and he wanted to be as extra as possible while being not. So, like, I could get behind that, but Trump is the exact opposite of that. Trump wants to rip from the people he's literally the human embodiment of taking candy from a baby. He wants to take as much as he can from the people it's easiest to take from because he wants more and more and more. We had a conversation. I'm going to diverge for a second, but it's an important one. We had a conversation some years ago on the server about what the fuck is a demon. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it came up again in one of our streams. I think it came up it's come up a couple times. But what a demon is in practical terms is that they're not real. Like they are a thing, but they're what happens when some type of selfishness or narcissism or some sort of sinful attribute grows to the point where it is no longer a facet of your personality, but is effectively controlling you. Um, so we see this with really any rich person. This is the easiest example because the greed they can't stop amassing money. It's no longer in their control. It has become something that they're no longer in control of. It's something that they have to do because they just can't fill that need. That need has become so gaping that it's become controlling. So now we see this with power with people like Trump and those around him because they reorient everything in their lives to justify what they're doing because that need for this thing has replaced their large chunks of their personality. Like they are no longer they're for lack of a better term, they've made themselves slaves to the whim of this desire. We see this with anybody, and this is where it gets really hard, is because it also borders on a narcissistic personality disorder, which is something that is a real disorder that people struggle with too. But one of the first things that these kind of demonic, if you will, obsessions does is it neuters your ability to see other people as valid when these obsessions grip a person and turn them inward towards themselves, they start seeing other people not as, inside their monkey sphere, but as NPCs. And once you've crossed that line, then you're being controlled by the thing, by the selfish desire, and you're, in a very real way, not yourself. But at the same time, like you have the choice to fight back against this thing or not. Um, and that's the really tough place for those of us on the outside to be in is like even for myself I look at Trump and I just think every day like Can you imagine what would happen if that man came to his senses, walked up to a mic in what's left of the Rose Garden, and said, "Hey, I just realized I was wrong about everything, and I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes until one of these agents shoots me in the head, telling you exactly what needs to do and begging you to rise up." He wouldn't last more than 20 minutes, but it would be the most gloriously epic, transformative 20 minutes in history. Um, he could do it. He could change the world for the better like that. Um, and that's not something that this greed or power demon controls. That is a choice that remains to even the farthest gone of all of us is to stand up for a minute and say, no, even if it kills me, I'm going to do the thing. I've got to. Um, yeah, the choice is always there, always.
All of us are. I've explained to my kid. I said, you need to understand. I said, by way of explaining that no, she's not a bad girl. I said, there's not so much good people and bad people as just people who make good and bad choices
Yeah.
and take good and bad actions, say good
Mhm.
and bad things. I said, everybody has good and bad in them. So it's up to us to choose what we're going to do. And I said, by way of saying, like, if you've done something that isn't good, that doesn't make you not good. That means
True.
you made a bad choice. But that's for, and I said, but that's for everybody. I said, so keep that in mind. And she's like, well, then who's a bad person? I said, if you make enough constant bad choices,
Mhm.
people will understandably call you a bad person.
I might even go
I,
slightly farther with that too. I do believe that our choices affect who we become. And
hmm,
I agree with you that I don't believe there's such a thing as a good person or a bad person. But every decision we make, good or bad, makes the next decision. It's like working on a muscle. It makes the next decision along that road easier. So if we make a selfish and evil decision and then we choose to look at that decision and say, wow, that was fucked up. I need to fix that and step back. We can repair and move away from it. The Christian term for that, of course, being repent, to turn away and to course correct. Then it's not really a thing. But if we make that bad decision and then we justify it to ourselves, we say, yeah, you know what? It was just the one time. It's just the one thing. It's fine. It's fine. It's all right. It's fine. I'm okay. I deserved that. Um, and the next one gets easier. And the one after that gets easier. And it changes who we are inside. We become the sort of person who justifies that, who convinces ourselves that the bad is good and the good is neutral or bad. And we find ourselves pulling away from the light in that way. And it is very possible to do that. And that's where the real risk of, well, to use the Christian term, the real risk of temptation is because it's not just simply knowing good and bad choices, it's knowing that making the bad choices seems harmless to us and small and tempting and sometimes even justifiable or even fun or good or exciting or hot or whatever. But when we make those choices, we prime ourselves for further choices and we go down a road that eventually it becomes very, very difficult to get back from. Now, it still doesn't make us a bad person, but it does make us a person who's way down at the bottom of a hole that it will be very, very difficult to climb out
no, no.
of.
Oh,
All right. Well, I think we've been at this for just shy of an hour, which is about our usual length of time. Was there anything
not
else in the
bad, not
news we
bad.
wanted to poke at? Anything else we wanted to scream
I
about,
mean,
rant
we
about?
managed to get round to the concept of like like good and bad like the very concept of what makes a person good or bad and whether or not one can be when starting out talking about one president blowing another. So,
You know,
It's been
for
a long road.
damn it, you got to the Star Trek joke before me. How dare you? How absolutely dare you? I can't believe you did that. I'm almost legitimately offended.
I mean, you're wearing Star Trek stuff the entire time. Well, it's okay. I've gotta out geek you anyway because the reason I was grinning like an idiot the describing the concept of like what a demon is because I've been part of those, some of these discussions, and the on my face upon watching the show that all of your children know everything from K-pop Hunters, I was like, oh my god, no, this is like kind of accurate. When a person becomes their bad decisions,
Well,
becomes their negative drives to where that's all there is.
yeah.
That's a
I will
demon.
say, I will say, I have yet to see K-pop Demon Hunters, but I'm sitting here at my desk at the church, and like this is right in front of me. Like that's on my shelf, sitting right next to Winnie the Pooh in Latin, the three books of the Lord of the Rings, and one out of my three sets of Robert Alter's commentary and Toyohiko Kagawa's Love the Law of Life. Because this is
Your point
my
being?
space in the church office. Of course, I've got Tolkien, Pratchett,
Sure.
Alter, and Kagawa on the same shelf.
That's pretty fantastic, actually.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
All
I
right.
think I've got a like coffee table book of the Art of Frida Kahlo on a shelf right next to a um a really really fucked up manga, a Junji Ito manga, um like a big compilation.
The
Yeah, so
the grand
strange
irony
things.
being that despite being the pastor in Japan, I never really have or do read manga. Like I don't really do read it. Like I have occasionally bought myself a manga to read, but
Hmm.
as I have discovered, there is a certain hazard in doing that because if I buy a manga, I have the opportunity to read it in the space between when I have purchased it at the bookstore and when I have arrived at my house. The minute that manga enters my house, it becomes the property of my children. Doesn't matter what it is, and I will never see it again.
That's funny as hell. I'll have to keep them in your office, eh?
Not for lack of trying. The kids get into my office too. Like,
Ooh, manga,
ugh.
yoink.
Yeah, pretty much, pretty much.
Remind
Like
me not
that's
to let your kids loose in my stuff if you know your kids and my stuff are ever in the same location. I have way too much manga that I don't want.
now you've got me imagining what a Courtney visit to Japan would look like just in terms of the programs we would be broadcasting. Like you and I broadcasting from the same location would be lit.
I don't know. I'm perceived enough as it is.
Oh God, we could do a back to basics live show.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, no, I mean, someday I've gotta get out there. I wanted to go to Japan since I was a little girl. So, anywho,
Well,
all right.
you
I
know,
think it's a good time to wrap it up. And
the easiest way to make that happen, the easiest way to get you out there is for us to raise the popularity of what we're doing so much that we can afford to just pay out for live shows. And do you know the best way to raise the profile of what we're doing?
like, share, and subscribe, please.
Please, we want to get Cordy out here so we can do a live show.
Comment below. Fuck that. How about replacing my water heater? Um, oh god, everyone's poor and everything sucks right
Yeah, tell me about it. Like
now.
I always
I'm
joke with people, I have three full careers. Like I am qualified in operating in three different careers simultaneously. I'm a full-time pastor, I'm a part-time professor, and apparently, and this is a little known fact, I also play keyboard in a rock band too. Which sounds awesome, but then you realize like I have somehow managed to be called slash chosen into the three least paying fields possible for a professional man of my age. So it's like, Oh God, I'm working 3 careers and I still have no money.
Well,
Kids, learn from my bad choices, please.
living the dream.
Living the dream, helping people with all of the $6 I have to my name.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
All right.
All right,
Well,
y'all. Well, we
I
are
think we're
we are at
wrapping
the
this
end of
up,
time. We've had an
and
active
I need
chat
to
today, which
go.
I've appreciated. All right.
Oh, good, good,
So
good.
yeah, we've had a few
I
people
haven't,
poking
I
in.
haven't been watching, and I've been negligent.
Yeah, I've been watching a little bit. Um, but yeah, I appreciate the comments on my bookshelf, folks. But we're going to go ahead and call it for today. So thank you all for a wonderful live stream. I apologize that we've been a bit hit and miss on these lately, but we're going to try to keep them a little more regular now going forward. I hope. For those of you who are here in the community, we are getting close to, in the next week or so, we're starting the Advent season, the beginning of the Christian year. And we are going to be doing some stuff. So keep your eyes open for that. Those of you that are here physically in Japan, I alluded to this earlier. I am going to be hard at work in the next week revamping what remains of the current church space so that we can operate our classes and cafe stuff here for the next 3 or 4 months before everything gets closed down. So we're going to have a really nice space here if I can do everything I mean to do. So if you're here in Japan, come to these classes. By the way, if you're online and you also want to A, contribute to the church and B, get something out of it, the classes that we're offering, English classes, there's a Japanese class, there's even a music theory class, they're not expensive, but they are something that you can do that you can donate money to the church and therefore get something out of it as well. And we are making them available online as well if people are interested. So if you are interested, the information for this is relatively easily accessible. It's up on the website, I think, and if it's not, it will be soon. Or just send me an email and I'll send you the registration link. Like, come do these things with us. Like, we're joking about this in our leadership team in the sense of haha, that's kind of funny, that's who we are, and also the sense of haha, we're going to die. But like when you're a church that subsists off of trying to care for the least of these, tithing doesn't really work as a functional model. So we need to find other ways to get the money flowing in. And I say this both as someone who wants the church's mission to succeed and as someone who is really the only paid employee of the church and kind of needs that money to survive too. So both of these things are simultaneously valid in the interest of full disclosure. But yeah, that's how we keep this thing going is we're looking for other ways that viewers like you can support the mission we're doing here. So if you want to
Hmm.
tithe or donate, the links to that are all down in the description. If you want to come to the classes and stuff, information, if it's not on the website, it will be soon enough where you can just shoot me an email. If you want to do something else, shoot me an email. Like, I'm not hard to find. Come join us on the Discord. You can yell at any one of us for any reason. We're doing a membership drive right now for folks who want to join the church. I've got 2 new people coming in this month. If you want to start your Christian faith journey and as a member of our actual church, because guess what, we are a legit church. Like, we're not just folks who chat online and have a Discord server. It's an actual church, believe it or don't.
Mhm.
And if you want to come in and join up and be one of those Christians whose membership is in that weird church online, come join us. We can do the thing, and we would love to do the thing with you. But most importantly, have yourselves a wonderful week, and we'll catch you all in the next one. Take care, y'all.
Bye.